and welcome to the Numerous community, the community for everybody that's aspiring to be an analyst. Today we're going to be talking about getting started with data analytics. So if you're new and you're not really sure whether data analytics is for you, or you're not quite sure what it entails, we'll be going through everything that you need to know today. So let's get started. What is data? Well, as you know, the world is currently overflowing with information, and all of this information is data. So from liking a photo on Instagram to reading a receipt when you've ordered something, you'll interact with data multiple times in your day-to-day life. And this data can be collected in many, many different ways. So if you're visiting the doctor, healthcare provider, data about your vitals and healthcare will be collected, so like your blood pressure, your glucose levels, things like that. When you make payments online or in store, businesses will collect information about you, such as the payment method that you've used, whether it was Visa, MasterCard, that kind of thing, the amount of money that you've spent on the items that you've purchased, the country, city, or the store location where you are buying the product. And the details about the product that you're buying as well. What kind of item is it? What kind of colour is it? Sizes, things like that. Marketing and interactions on websites is also another piece of data that you'll interact with. So if you've ever gone onto a website and saw one of those banners at the bottom that says you must click accept to use this website, and if you use this website, you're accepting our terms and conditions. This is that kind of thing. So all of that information that you're putting into the website will be collected, and this allows companies to use your data. So it's stuff like you clicking on certain items, where you've come from, whether you came from a marketing campaign, whether you came from Facebook, things like that. Data is even used within sports industries, such as football or Formula One, and this kind of data is used to optimize performance. So as an analyst, you'll use all this kind of data, depending on which industry that you work in, to answer questions and to help businesses formulate strategies. So what are the common data types that you would have come across or will come across as your role as an analyst? Let's start with strings. So strings is a fancy way of saying text data. So in your day-to-day life at the moment, you may have come across this in news articles, whether that's in paper format or online, in product descriptions when you're purchasing something online, or even on tweets in Twitter. So all of that is text data or strings. Next we have numerical. So numerical is basically numbers. That could be the number of orders, the number of leaves on a tree, the length of a box, or the price of a t-shirt. It's all numerical data. Dates. Dates is a very common data type that you may work with as a data analyst, and you'll come across this every day in your day-to-day life. So things like your birthday, the date today, or even a historical date. Now there are many, many other data types. We've just covered a few. Some of the other ones could be images, Boolean, which is a fancy way of saying true or false, geospatial, such as latitude and longitude, cities, countries, and so many more data types. But the main ones are strings, numerics, and dates, things like that. So what is data analytics? Well, in a nutshell, it's the process of using data to make decisions and to discover interesting insight. So the analytics process, it usually starts off with a question or a theory that as an analyst you need to prove. And often the question can be open-ended. So here are a few examples. It could be something like, how do we sell more hot dogs? So let's pretend that we work for a company that produces and distributes hot dogs. As a data analyst, you'll use a couple of different areas to answer some questions for this company. The first area is descriptive analytics. So this is telling a story of what happened. So how many hot dogs did we sell? So for example, as an analyst, you can create a dashboard or a report on the number of hot dogs that were sold in that period of time. Next is diagnostic analytics, and this is understanding why something has happened. So the company might ask you, why did we sell so many hot dogs yesterday? So for example, as an analyst, I could have a look and I might find out that the marketing team, well, they ran a voucher campaign and this increased the number of hot dog sales that we had. Next, we have predictive analytics, and this is using data to predict what might happen in the future. So we might find that people like to eat hot dogs on sunny days. So for example, I'm an analyst and I look through some historical data, and this suggests that the sale of hot dogs increases by 10% on sunny days. So using this information, we can predict the number of hot dogs sold on the next sunny day by taking the average number of orders and increasing that by 10% to get the value of the number of orders that we think that we might get on the next sunny day. Prescriptive analytics. So this is where you give decision makers suggestions on what they can do next to drive change, either to make more sales or to get customers to conduct an action that is favourable. So in this scenario, we've got people like ketchup on their hot dog. So this is prescriptive. We could look at this and go, okay, what else can we prescribe for this? So for example, historical data might suggest that people put ketchup on their hot dogs. So as an analyst, we can suggest other condiments such as barbecue sauce, mustard, or Tabasco. And we could suggest that this could increase the average order value of hot dogs by putting mustard there as well as ketchup. So if we sold mustard for 50p, a hot dog is £1. Altogether, that sale now is £1.50 instead of £1. So data analysts will use a mix of these different approaches when completing a task. So they might do some bit of diagnostic with a bit of descriptive that might lead to some prescriptive, so a recommendation at the end. So what kind of tasks do data analysts do in their day-to-day? Well, they might spend some time creating documents, writing about what has happened within the business, what metrics have moved, maybe writing a document about an incident that happened, or writing a document about a recommendation for the business. Sometimes you spend a lot of time creating dashboards or reports to allow the business to be data-driven. That puts the power in the stakeholders' hands so that they can go off and answer any questions that they want, so the analyst can focus on some deeper questions. As an analyst, you'll spend a lot of time pulling data from different sources. So you might have some data that comes from a CSV, some that you might download off the internet, some from a database, and you might work with all of these to answer some of these questions. So because you might be spending a lot of time pulling from different sources, a big part of your job is data reconciliation. And this essentially means that you're just making sure that the data is of the highest quality, the data is doing what it says it's doing, the data can be trusted, and it matches other sources. So how is an analyst's time spent during the workday? Well, we've got a few different things that an analyst does, so we've got a little chart to talk you through this. So as an analyst, you'll have lots of different things that go on, but these are the main areas. So you'll have meetings, knowledge, and analytics. So let's dive into meetings. What kind of meetings will you have? Well, you'll have lots of different meetings with lots of different people. The first kind of meetings you'll have is with stakeholders. So these are the people that have a buy-in to an idea or a hypothesis that they need your help to prove or to find answers to. And the kind of meetings you'll have with this person is one-on-one, so discussing ideas, maybe telling them about a piece of analysis that you've done in the past, recommendations, or planning new things. You also have project kickoffs, so if they come to you with a question, you'll have a meeting to discuss how are you going to do the work, does this need anybody else's help, how long is it going to take, and when it can be delivered. So after stakeholder meetings, you'll also have business department meetings. This example is taken from a typical analyst's role within a tech business. So it might be slightly different if you're going into a smaller company or a smaller industry or a different industry. But typically you'll have lots of different meetings within the department. So let's say if you work within the e-commerce department of a big corporation, you might have stand-ups. Stand-ups are typically a short meeting that happens at the beginning of the day, usually around 15 minutes, where you just tell everybody what you're working on today, what you plan to achieve, and what you plan to do tomorrow. So it's just a way of keeping in touch with everybody and making sure if anybody needs help, then they can ask for it there. Again, similar to stakeholder, you'll have planning sessions. This is where You plan out all the work that's going to be happening within the department to make sure that there's no duplication of work, make sure that everybody's on the same page. Usually, sometimes you'll work in what we call sprints, where you complete a number of planned tasks within a 2-week period. So at the end of that, you'll have something called a retrospective. And this is a meeting that you'll have with your team or with the department or the business area. And you'll look back and say, okay, what went well these past 2 weeks? What didn't we get done? And what can we do about it? Is it a wider business problem? Is it something that we can help with? Can we unblock some of these issues? It's also a great chance for people to talk about things that have also happened in their day-to-day life. So maybe something happened outside of work, maybe they were sick and that had some impact on their work, or maybe they had a really good week. Maybe they got a new office chair at home, they're working from home, they got a new office chair, this boosted their mental health, they were really happy and they managed to get loads of work done, more than what they would have done the week previously. So it's time to share ideas, share opinions, and plan for the next sprint or next time of working on tasks. Next, you'll have knowledge sharing. So if you're an analyst, you might be part of a wider group of data scientists or a data science department. And usually you'll have some meetings where you share knowledge, or even software engineers will share their knowledge, or product owners, or even the CEO will share knowledge about a particular business area so that everybody is in the loop about what's happening. Similar to this, we have show and tell. Show and tell is a little bit different. So instead of you learning about something, it's somebody just telling you, this is what we've done and this is the impact. Next kind of meeting is very similar to business department, but usually just a little bit smaller within your analytics team. So with other analysts, again, you might have stand-ups. So finding out if you need any help with anything, checking in to see if any other analysts are doing anything similar. You also have planning within your teams, maybe to figure out if you're going to pick up something or your colleague is going to pick up a piece of work. You'll have team check-ins, again, a mental health thing, and to make sure that work isn't getting too much. If there's anything blocked, so maybe someone else can help you. And you'll also have line manager one-to-ones, and these are usually focused more towards your career, how you want to progress, what you want to learn, things like that. The next set of meetings is wider analytics and data science. So different to business department, this will only be data people, whereas in business department, it could be sales people, the CEO, could be software engineers, lots of different disciplines. Wider analytics is just people that work in data. And again, you might do knowledge sharing, so maybe teaching somebody how to use GitHub or how to use SQL. Again, you'll have show and tells, maybe talking through a piece of analysis that you've done or talking through a new tool that you might have. And we have something called all hands, and this is quite similar to wider business meetings, but this is an opportunity for you to ask questions about the department or about the discipline, so about the analytics discipline. And finally, we have company-wide. So this is where everybody in the whole company, doesn't matter where you work, everybody in the whole company will attend this meeting. And this is usually about things that are more external about the company. So what are we presenting to the public? Maybe financial records or financial performance, things like this. And also you'll get the opportunity to ask questions. So usually you'll ask the higher ups in the company, maybe the CFO, the chief financial officer, or the CEO. You'll get to ask those people some questions about the direction of the company. So next, we've done meetings, so now it's all about knowledge. So what kind of things do you need to know as an analyst, and what you'll be doing with knowledge? So the first step is acquiring knowledge. So you'll be doing lots of different things to acquire knowledge. As an analyst, you're kind of expected to know pretty much everything about the business in order to help answer these questions. So it's a lot of reading documents, internal and external research. You'll be doing courses. A data analyst job is never done, and you never stop learning. There's always something new, and there's always something you need to learn. You'll be knowledge sharing with a peer. So maybe if you've worked on a big project and you're taking annual leave, you might need to share that knowledge to somebody so that they can carry on that project in your absence. You may also go on conferences, maybe attend a meeting like this, where you'll learn something new or share something new. You can go to meetups where you can meet other data analysts or other people in data science space. And finally, projects. So It's not expected of you, but a lot of analysts will do projects outside, maybe to learn a new tool. So a lot of people make Tableau dashboards in their spare time, just to, keep learning new things so that they can then apply it in their roles. Next, we have sharing. So you can acquire knowledge and then share it. So very similar. You might mentor somebody. So you might work your way up and you're now a senior analyst. So at that level, you'll be expected to share knowledge with somebody that's a junior. So teaching them how to use things, the best ways to go about something, maybe new methodologies, new ways of working, things like that. You'll also be writing a lot of documentation. So if there's a piece of analysis that was a little bit difficult to produce, you might write some documentation on how to read it or how to replicate it. Very similarly, you might be doing some tutorials as well to teach people how to use dashboards or teach people how to use a tool. Usually these are directed at people that are not in the data space. So maybe for sales teams that want access to data but don't know how to use the tool, you'll either have a tutorial for them that's like a video, or you'll teach them one-on-one. And finally, after you've been to all the meetings, you've written the documents, you've read the documents, you've shared all the knowledge, we can finally do some analytics. So this is split into a few different areas. We have data wrangling, peer review and analysis. So data wrangling is gathering of data, a bit like what we talked about before, data reconciliation, making sure that everything's nice and clean, peer review and analysis. So basically analysis is where you conduct, answer the questions using those pillars that we talked about before, like descriptive and prescriptive analytics. And peer review is where you'll read over another analyst's piece of work and offer comments or improvements. So under data wrangling, what does this include? So tracking. So depending on the type of company that you work for, you may be responsible for tracking. And what does this mean? Well, it means how do we collect the data? So if you work for a website, you might be in charge of all of that underlying structure. So how do we define orders? How do we define sessions? How do we define a customer? How do we define all these business metrics? So you'll be working with other people within the business, like software engineers, to put this tracking in place in order to collect metrics for you to then use in dashboards and in analysis. Reconciliation is what we talked about before, all about quality, similar to cleaning. If you work with text data or date data, there might be some cleaning involved just to get it into the format that you need. And finally, understanding. So it's sometimes quite difficult to work with a new database or a new data set and know exactly what this is telling you to look at or how to understand it, how to use it. Is there any pitfalls? Is there any risks of this data? Is there anything strange that goes on with the data that might cause you to go off in the wrong direction if you use it in the wrong way? So there's a lot of figuring out what data is actually doing, how is it formed in order for you to use it appropriately. So peer reviewing, what kind of things would you be doing here? So this is you having a look over somebody else's code or methodology for a piece of analysis. Maybe that's in SQL or in Python or in R. So you'll be expected to read over this and figure out, is there any way that they can improve this? Is there anything that's a pitfall or a risk where they've done something that's not quite having the intended result, and you can suggest improvements. You may also review slides or documents, maybe correct some grammar or spelling mistakes, or just find ways to make this clearer for viewers or readers. And finally, analysis. So you'll read over a whole piece of analysis, make sure that you understand it, add any suggestions to make this clearer, maybe add other areas where the analyst can go and explore further to avoid any questions from the stakeholders, so that everything's all in this one document. So our next question, analysis, sorry. So analysis, what do we cover under here? So it's mainly 3 different pillars. We have visualization, modeling and exploratory. So visualization is anything from a dashboard to a single chart, so maybe a bar chart, a pie chart, anything like that, or even maybe you're making a video about data. Modeling is where you need to transform the data or run some calculations on top of it in order to get the output that you need. So maybe financial modeling or predictive modeling. And exploratory is where you're given a question. So how can we sell more hot dogs? And you might just go and look at all the data and come up with a result or come up with some recommendations. So do you need math or statistics to become a data analyst? Well, no, not necessarily, not really to get started. If you're good at answering questions, or if you're good at SQL, or if you're good at Excel, you can start as a data analyst. You don't necessarily need math or statistics to start off with. As you get higher in your career, or if you want to specialize in maybe economics or as a statistician, then yes, you will need these qualifications or this knowledge in order for you to get further in your career. Can you start without a relevant degree? Yes, of course. I know lots of people that have arts degrees. I have an arts degree, that have psychology degrees, engineering degrees. They don't necessarily need to have a math or statistics background like we just discussed. You can start from pretty much any walk of life. You can learn the following things to get started. So how do you get started? Well, I always recommend starting with Excel and one visualization tool. So let's have a look at Excel. So within Excel, you should feel confident with completing the following tasks. So you should be able to get a data set, be able to summarize it in the following ways. So take the sum of any numeric columns, the minimum, the maximum, the average, using either a formula or using pivot tables, which is our next one. So pivot tables is where you take a flat data set and you transform it in lots of different ways. So maybe you want to look at the average number of sales by country. So you use a pivot table to do this. VLOOKUP is where you join two pieces of data together, or you join a piece of data back to itself in order to answer questions. You'll need to know how to do some basic data cleaning, so maybe splitting out columns, changing the casing, so from capitals to lowercase or something like that. You'll need to understand basic date transformation. So maybe you have one date format that is the word January 2022, but you need that all in numerical format. So understanding how you can switch back and forth will be useful. And learning how to create some charts. So learning how to create bar charts and line charts so that you can visualize your data in Excel as well. So this is the very basics that I would say that you need to learn in order to start within data analytics. So as for visualization tools, in most companies you'll be working with, they'll use one of these tools. These are like the most popular tools in the industry. So Power BI, Google Data Studio, Tableau, and Looker. So if you research some of the companies that you'd like to work for one day, have a look on LinkedIn or have a look on Google and try and find out which tools that they use. So if you look at job descriptions for data analytics roles within these companies, it'll usually tell you which tool that they want you to use. And this will help you to decide which one that you want to learn. So should you learn SQL? Well, this depends on the size and maturity of the company. So if you're working for a local business that maybe is in your local town, you live in a small town, they only have one store, they just need an analyst to help with a couple of things, they might not have a database. So you won't need SQL to work in that company, you might just need Excel. So it depends on the size. Whereas if you worked for like Google, you'll definitely need SQL. So I'd say, again, have a look, do some research, figure out which companies that you want to work for, have a look on LinkedIn at what the requirements are, and then make that decision. Is this company already set up to use SQL, or will I just be using Excel? If you do decide that you need to learn SQL, there's a great course on DataCamp called Introduction to SQL. I think the first few chapters are free so that you can get a sense and start your learning for free. So what other languages should you learn? Should you learn Python or R? Very similar to the last question, it all depends on the company that you want to work for. If the company isn't set up with SQL, with databases, it's very unlikely that you'll need to use Python or R within that business day to day. So again, depends on your own personal choice, whether you want to do the extra work to learn these things before you go and get a job, or whether you just want to learn on the job. So me personally, I learnt SQL and R while already in my working career. So when I first started, I only knew Excel or Google Sheets. So talking about starting out, how can I get experience? I'm just starting out. I want my first job, but no one will hire me because I don't have experience. So how can I get experience? I always recommend freelancing websites. So People Per Hour and Fiverr, these great websites where you can put up projects that you are willing to do, maybe data cleaning, building dashboards, things like that, and people can purchase your services. You can also bid on other people's projects. So maybe someone might want a dashboard making, or they might need some help with an Excel formula. There's lots of different jobs that you could do, and this will give you some experience, and then you can put on your CV that you've been freelancing for however long, and this will help you get into that first step. So do industries other than tech hire data analysts? Well, yes, just like we mentioned earlier in the call, lots of different industries hire data analysts. So healthcare, sports, pretty much every industry will have some kind of data analytics role. Sometimes it's not called a data analyst. There's lots of different names for analysts, such as like statisticians, or maybe data entry, or I don't know, data clerk. There's lots of different names. But if you do some research and have a look at the description, you might find that the roles and responsibilities are pretty similar to data analysts. And if you're not sure, you can always get into contact with the hiring manager to ask them some questions and see whether or not this is suitable for you. So how much do analysts get paid? Well, this is a screenshot from Glassdoor, and this is a website where lots of different people will input their salaries. Glassdoor then aggregates it all and give you an idea of how much people are getting paid in different cities. So this screenshot is taken from the 19th of June 2022. And this is for London, data analyst salaries in London. So this tells you that an average base pay is around £36,000. But as you can see, there are some people earning a bit more than that, and there are some people earning a bit less with this. As always, take this with a pinch of salt. This is only based on people that have actually submitted their salaries and across lots of different industries. So it will depend on which industry you get in, what kind of company you work for, and also at your level of experience. And that's it from me today. So if you enjoyed this, we have lots of other events that you can attend to learn some new stuff. And you can also join the community. I think we have nearly 1,000 people in our Slack community. And during this community, you can find a project buddy if you need somebody to work with. You can get help with your CV, projects and interviews. There's lots of people to give you tips in there. We have monthly challenges with prizes to help you practice your data skills and to build a portfolio. Like we mentioned, there's lots of workshops and event news put in there, and you can meet lots of other aspiring analysts as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope I see you soon in the community. Thank you very much. See you soon.